Judged by skin, not rank. FBI director teaches them a lesson. He walked into the courtroom alone. No lawyer, no suit, just a calm black man in jeans and a hoodie. Laughter echoed. Whispers bounced off the walls. "Must be another criminal," one officer muttered. The judge didn't look up. Security tightened their grip on their belts. But no one knew. This wasn't just another man off the street. And when he finally spoke, the room fell silent. Because the man they had mocked was the one who oversaw them all. Bellhop Bell, before we dive in, we have a small request. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we can't get there without you. If this story resonates, please subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and stay till the end. The twist will shake you. David Hayes wasn't a household name, but he held one of the most powerful positions in federal law enforcement. As an assistant director at the FBI, his work focused on civil rights investigations, cases of police misconduct, hate crimes, and racial profiling. Ironically, he rarely stepped into courtrooms anymore. His work was behind the scenes, files, operations, audits. But today was different. He'd received anonymous complaints about a courthouse in a small town outside Baltimore. Repeated reports claimed the public defenders were dismissive, officers were hostile, and people of color were treated like criminals the moment they stepped through the metal detectors. David didn't want to send a team. He wanted to see it with his own eyes. He wore no badge, no suit, no press credentials, just jeans, a hoodie, and a quiet presence. He walked in with a folder tucked under his arm, containing nothing but a notepad and his credentials sealed. As he sat quietly on a bench, waiting to observe a routine public hearing, he felt it begin. The stares, the whispers. A bailiff leaned over to another officer, chuckling. "He think he's here for traffic court or what?" David stayed silent. But he took notes, because what they didn't know, what no one in that courtroom knew, was that the man they were mocking was there to evaluate them. David watched as a young black teenager was brought in, handcuffed, eyes low. His public defender whispered something half-heartedly before the judge waved them along with barely a glance. Case dismissed, no explanation. Another man, this time Hispanic, approached the bench about a fine he couldn't afford. The judge rolled her eyes. "Maybe you should have thought of that before speeding." Laughter followed. No payment plan. No options. Just contempt. David's pen moved swiftly. But he wasn't invisible anymore. A security officer approached. "Hey, what are you doing here?" David calmly replied. "Just observing." "Observing what?" "Court procedures." The officer frowned. "You're not media. Got ID?" David gently reached into his folder. "I'll show it when it's appropriate." The officer scoffed. "Watch yourself." Minutes later, another officer walked over with a smirk. "You look familiar. You from around here?" David smiled. "No." "Then why you watching us like we're on trial?" David replied. "Maybe you should ask yourself that." Whispers turned to murmurs. Two officers stood by the exit, arms crossed. The judge shot a glance at David, but said nothing. Then, as if on cue, a white man stumbled in, clearly intoxicated. He laughed, slurred his name, and called the bailiff chief. They chuckled back. No cuffs, no disrespect. David had seen enough. He stood, walked toward the front of the courtroom, and pulled a letter from his folder. The courtroom quieted. One officer stepped forward to block him. "You can't!" David cut him off with a calm but commanding voice. "Sit down." The officer paused. David opened the letter. An official Department of Justice order authorizing a surprise audit and investigation. Heads turned, gasps, and then he flipped the letter to reveal his credentials. FBI. The room froze. The smirks vanished. That same judge who hadn't looked up in 45 minutes now locked eyes with David, her face pale. "My name is David Hayes. Assistant Director, Civil Rights Division, FBI. I've been observing this courtroom for the past 90 minutes. I've witnessed racial bias, procedural negligence, and multiple violations of constitutional rights. You could hear a pin drop. The officer who mocked him earlier stumbled backward. The bailiff's hands fell to his sides. The public defender suddenly looked alert. David's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. This hearing is being reported to the Justice Department for a full investigation. Every face I saw here today, every smirk, every ignored plea, every careless insult is noted. He turned toward the judge. And, Your Honor, I suggest you contact your legal counsel. The silence was thunderous. No one dared to speak. David closed his folder and walked out the same way he came in. Quiet, calm, composed. But the ground behind him shook. David didn't do a press conference. He didn't gloat. The report was filed, and a full inquiry was launched weeks later. Several officers were suspended. The judge was placed under review. The courthouse, once an overlooked relic of bias, became a national story about accountability. But for David, it wasn't about making headlines. It was about reminding the system. Not everyone who walks in looking like a suspect is one. He knew what would have happened had he been anyone else. Had he raised his voice? Had he reached into his folder too quickly? The story could have ended with a headline about another misunderstanding. That's the reality for millions. He carried that truth with him back to Washington, and into every room he walked into after. Because racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it laughs. It whispers. It assumes. But every now and then it gets caught. And so, we ask you now, if this could happen to someone doing everything right, what does that say about the system? And more importantly, what are we willing to do to change it? Movie camera, if this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Bell subscribe. Speech balloon comment. Loudspeaker share. Let's make sure the world doesn't forget.